We are live now. Welcome to class. Yay. I'm super excited to be here at this moment. This is the Growth uh, Accelerator webinar. I'm super excited. If you can hear me loud and clear, welcome to class. This is the voice of Coach Faith. You can as well type in the room and tell me you can hear me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me in the room I can hear you, and let me know where you're joining from as well. Let me know where you're joining from. If this is your first time meeting me, welcome to class. Welcome to class. Aaron, how are you? Welcome to class. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, type I can hear you, Coach Faith, so we can get started right away. Yes, this is going to be an awesome conversation. I call this your Jordan crossing moment. Somebody should type it in the comment. My Jordan crossing moment. What that simply means is you can imagine the children of Israel after spending so many years in the land of in the wilderness. Okay, Favor says I can hear you. Thank you. After spending so many years in the wilderness, it was time for them to cross over to the promised land, the land that they had anticipated for several years, even though there were seasons where it was almost as though their sabotages, their lack of clarity, their alignment was going to stop them. So they got to that place in their life, in their world, where they needed to cross. Yes, a Jordan crossing moment. They got to that place in their lives where they needed to cross to the promised land. This land has been promised to their fathers for thousands of years, and it was time for them to cross. So this is a Jordan crossing moment. The Personal Growth Accelerator webinar is a program that is set to set you up on fire. It's been put together to set you up on fire so that you can stop running in the same circle for a long time. My name is Faith Michael. If today's your first time listening to me, I'm a personal development coach, your growth catalyst. Yes, I've been coaching for the past 4 years. This is my fifth year in the world of coaching. One thing I've seen again and again is the fact that people really, a lot of the times, they get excited. I started off my journey as a reading coach. Yeah, I still coach on reading. I've written several books on that. Many of you can attest to that. All right. But then I came to realize that a lot of times people get excited. Like you get a book. Oh my God, this book is so fine. I love the author. You get excited and you read it, and at the end of the day, you never get to implement on the ideas. You never get to do the work. And even when you attend classes, you interact with sessions, you have a coach, you do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you never get to do the work. And when you don't do the work, friends, what's going to happen? You don't get to grow. So this is going to be an interactive session. So if I ask you anything, you get to talk back at me from the comment section so that I can read your comment and I know that you are with me. Okay? If you have not told us where you're joining us from, you're welcome. Welcome to your Jordan crossing moment. Okay, so let's get started. Let's set the ball rolling. So, like I said already, that at the end of the day, people get to move on that journey. If you see me looking down, you know that I'm looking at my notes. Okay, no teacher comes to class without a notepad. All right, Charity, you're welcome to class. So, at the end of the day, people get excited. But fast forward to few months down the line, few years down the line, they're like they never had an experience of such. They never got in contact with such experience. Okay, so the essence of this class is to see to it that you are able to move past that place of inertia. You're able to stop running in the same circle for a long time, and you are able to make progress. You're able to zone in deeper on your journey of intentionality so that you can finally be able to experience growth. So when we say accelerator, when we say growth accelerator, what does it even mean? I know some of you may be asking, what's she talking about? What does it mean for your growth to be accelerated? In a layman's language, it is quite understandable. Just looking at the word to accelerate, it means to go up higher, right? To move beyond your current positioning. That's what it means to accelerate. Okay, it is not like you're moving backward, you're moving forward. Like they say, forward ever, backward never. So when I say accelerate your growth, I'm simply saying that you have to stop moving in circles and start moving with clarity. Clarity is what creates room for necessity. I like you to type clarity in the room. Many a times, the reason we're not making progression, like you started off on this journey, you have been reading a lot of books. You started off 5 years ago, but after 5 years, you're like nothing is even happening. It's almost like you've just been moving from one place to another, and you're not making any foreseeable progress. Just like the children of Israel, just running around in circles in the land of in the wilderness, and they never get to move forward because they had a lot of issues, not because God never wanted them to cross. Of course, according to biblical history, we all know that there were also shorter routes that they could have gone through to ensure that they're able to get to the promised land within about 40 days or less, right? But they ended up spending 40 years. Do you see that? I hope you can relate with the analogy now that it is okay for you to be excited, but it is not okay for you to remain in the place of excitement. All right. The children of Israel were excited. They cried, they prayed, and they left the land of Egypt. All right. They crossed the river, the first river, the Red Sea, and they entered into the wilderness, a place of training. But that place of training, they never really moved forward because the roadmap that was downloaded to them, they weren't willing to cooperate. They weren't willing to work in line with it. So when I talk about the roadmap that was downloaded to them, I'm simply just talking about the essence of alignment, the essence of truly zoning in and doing the work on a deeper level. So when I say growth accelerator, another meaning is that you are going to be shifting from passive learning to intentional execution. I like you to type that in the room. Shifting from passive learning to intentional execution. That's what it is, where you're no longer just in a place where you continue to collate knowledge, collate information. Let me even call it information, not knowledge, because it is the information that is properly interpreted that becomes knowledge. If the information is not properly interpreted, we cannot call it knowledge. And that's why they say knowledge is power. So we live in the world of information today. Um, Psychologists even have a word for it. They call it infobesity. But that notwithstanding, it does not translate to automatic knowledge. It has to go through a lot in your heart, in your system, in your personality, for you to finally be able to translate it to knowledge. So information is not knowledge. All right. Just as data is not information, you have to be able to interpret data for it to give you information. You must also interpret information to give you knowledge. And once you interpret knowledge, knowledge is what gives you competence. From competence, we'll now begin to talk about your comparative advantage, how you get to stand out in the world, how you become exceptional. You see, this roadmap is not something that somebody can do for you. We call them knowledge pillars. It's not something that someone can do for you. You have to go through that route yourself. So your shift from passivity to the place of intentional execution is what growth accelerator means. Okay, you have to stop being passive. It is time to become very intentional with your execution. That is where you become very strategic. Whenever we talk about strategy, we're simply saying what are the resources within your disposal right now that you can truly begin to align together, that you can begin to put together to ensure that you are able to implement and get results. Okay, you can be given the same access, but that access cannot automatically translate to the same strategy that favor will have, that I will have. Okay, it's going to come in different shades and in different forms, depending on how well I'm able to harness the resources within my bandwidth. Thank you, Ifeoluwa, for joining the class. Now, the third definition is that you now begin to build momentum that aligns with your divine assignment. Somebody should type divine assignment. You now begin to build the kind of momentum that aligns with your divine assignment. Come on now. Divine assignment. How many of you in the room believes that you have a divine assignment? A divine assignment. Do you believe that you have a divine assignment? So a divine assignment is the assignment that's been given to you by God, that is wired in your DNA, wired in who you are, be called to be. All right. So a lot of times when you learn and learn and learn, interact with courses, interact with coaches, and you're simply not getting the result you seek, you're simply not making progress, it is as a result of the fact that you've not been able to align or build momentum that truly connects to your divine assignment. So, in the place of growth acceleration, there's also such a thing as truly understanding how to close the gap between where you are and where you ought to be. All right. That's when we now begin to talk about your identity, your evolution, all right, and all of those different segments. The fourth definition is the fact that, oh, Charity says, I believe I have a divine assignment. Beautiful. It starts from there. Number four definition is that you identify and eliminate what is slowing you down. That is what it means to accelerate growth. Just imagine the children of Israel understood what really limited them. What was their limiting beliefs? What was their limiting orientations? The values that they've upheld for so long a time that was really stifling their growth, that was stifling their acceleration. So you must identify what is slowing you down. That is when we begin to talk about growth gap analysis. There's a whole course around that I have built. Growth gap analysis. So your ability to be able to understand the gap between here and there. Between here and there. So when you understand it, it is going to be easier for you to close the gap. It's going to be easier for you to read the right books. Welcome, Mom Evelyn. Yay! Welcome to class, Evelyn. All right, so it is going to be easier for you to now begin to close that gap because you're no longer going to be working from the place of isolation because you don't learn in isolation actually because you are a complex personality. All right, you don't learn in isolation because you are a complex personality. You need to understand your framework adequately. All right, we're going to get there. So when you identify and eliminate what is slowing you down, it simply means that you are ready to accelerate. It simply means that you are ready to move from here to there. All right. Are you learning something? If you're learning, type I am learning. All right. If you're learning, type I am learning. So, number six is that you break free from the trap of overthinking and underperforming. You break free from the trap of overthinking and underperforming. Do you see that? You break free, you simply just break free from that zone of trying to perform, of trying to achieve, right? Because now you understand you. Now you know where you are headed. Okay? Now you know where you are headed. Thank you, Esther. Thank you for joining. I see simplified learning. You're welcome to class. Okay? Now you know where you are headed. So you create a structured plan for your progress. You create a structured plan for your progression. You're no longer just learning because you want to be perfect. I used to be there. All right. I grew up as an A student. As an A student, so I can easily relate. How many of you are A students here? I mean, A student curriculum wise, school wise, like you're an A student, you're always having those A's in school. If you're an A student, type A student, maybe you can relate with this. As an A student growing up with my grandparents in a remote environment, I remember my dad would always travel back from Delta State in those days and would say, if you fail, I'm not going to pay your next term school fees. In fact, if you fail, you will not go to the university. I became deliberate. Somebody should type deliberate. I became deliberate. Simplify says I'm A plus. There was no A plus in our time. Oh. Okay, so A was A. So I became deliberate. I became intentional. I would read. I remember as a primary school student, I would read at night. How many of you know those native lamps? If you're not a Nigerian, you may not understand. Those native lamps that they will put maybe kerosene, oil, palm oil, they'll put inside the can, and then there will be this wool that will come out of the lamp and we put it on at night. Remember in those days when you put it on, when you wake up in the morning, everywhere will be dark. Everywhere will be filled with charcoal. How many of you know that lamp? That was the kind of lamp we always used to read in those days. I will read. I can remember primary four, primary five, I was deliberate, right? That was performance. Why? It was okay for us to be able to do that because at some point life was all about academics. It's even now the shift is happening to everybody, and we are getting to understand that life goes beyond that, right? We will read, we will do all the work and all of that. And it got to a point, somebody should say it got went. I got tired. In the higher institution of learning, because of the pressure to always be at the top, because I was already at the top, to maintain it was a problem. It got to a level I told myself, I'm tired. Like, let this cup pass over me. I want to rest. You want to sleep, you're not sleeping, you are constantly agitated. I don't want to get less than an A and all of that. Those were all laced with the pressure to perform, the pressure to just be able to show up and say, yes, I can really achieve it. Oh, favor, you've wasted kerosene because on different occasions the lamp will fall down. Oh my God. You are lucky that it wasn't fake kerosene. Oh, somebody says, I don't understand. Okay, being an A student means you're always carrying first, maybe first, second, third, that kind of thing. Okay, those days that they normally will rate us based on that standard. I believe schools are doing better now. So we get A students between first, second, third, that kind of range. So your ability to go beyond just performance to understand that it is progression that matters. A lot of people overthink their situation, they overthink their life, and they never move past the place of just running in circles, um, doing one thing again and again, and they are really not seeing result, tangible result. Okay, growth acceleration is about embracing discipline, okay, as a doorway, not actually as a prison. I embraced discipline as a prison at that level. I embraced it as a prison at that level. It wasn't as a result of the fact that I wanted to just grow. I wanted to build a system that can work for me, right? A system that can help me move from here to there. So growth acceleration means that you are embracing discipline as a doorway and not a prison. Somebody should type that. I embrace discipline as a doorway to my acceleration, as a doorway to getting better. It's not really because I want to be in prison. Joko Willings wrote a book titled Discipline is Freedom. Many of you have read that book. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is actually freedom. The moment you are doing it from the place of identity, the moment you are doing it from the place of alignment, yes, not trying to please, not trying to perform, not trying to make my daddy feel good that I'm doing well, right? If they had given me a different orientation and I understood that, okay, true, I had the gene, I had the ability to train, to learn, to be able to do this, it would have been freedom for me. It wouldn't have felt like I was in a box, I was placed somewhere. Okay? So many of you understand what I'm saying. In the era where you're told that you have to be a science student, right? You have to be a doctor, you have to be a this, an engineer, before you can really be approved by the society. Back in those days, if you're an art student, they feel that, oh, you're not an intelligent person, you don't have so much. But we say, oh, I'm a science student. People are like, yes, that brain is hot. You see, those were just misalignment and they didn't take us nowhere and they've not been able to take us so no anywhere. So embracing um, discipline as a freedom, as a form of freedom, and not that you are in prison is more important. Another thing you have to know about growth acceleration is that you experience peace because you are no longer misaligned. Somebody asked me a question recently. He said, Coach Faith, this is always talking about alignment, alignment. What is alignment? I said, we're in alignment season. Possibly we can even open up an alignment group very soon. We are in alignment season. It's about alignment for us. Okay, thank you for that. Mosifi says, I'm learning. I'm glad you are learning, Mosifi. All right. So at the end of the day, you just understand that it is simply just about experiencing peace at your core. All right. You see, the children of Israel in the wilderness, they were constantly fighting themselves. How many of you remember the scenario when Moses was always settling issues? He would sit from morning till night and be settling matters. Ah, Moses, this one did that. Oh, Moses, that. Until the father-in-law had to tell him, see, you kill yourself. These guys are going to wear you out. They are not willing to ascend. They are not willing to accelerate. They are willing to start keep doing you like this. All right. Just like many people would want to wear me out many a times. Oh, Coach Faith, send me this book. Coach Faith, oh, this book. Oh, Coach Faith, that book. At some point, I stopped replying those messages. All right. I'm not here to send you books. I'm here to coach you to experience transformation. But a lot of people are just okay with piling up books that they will never read. They are in different WhatsApp groups. You know yourself. They're in different WhatsApp groups where they have thousands of books. If you ask them, before you even say Jack, they've told you, I have a lot of books, so there is no book I don't have. But have you read any of them? No. Week to week, you don't read. All right. Maybe if you want to even manage, you do one in 3 months. That's if you're able to finish it. You see. So experiencing peace is very important, and it is an alignment strategy. To say that I'm on a journey of growth, I'm accelerating, but I'm aligned. I'm going to tell you what it will take for you to really be aligned so that you can understand on a deeper level. And then the second to the last is that you stop living reactively and start living prophetically. All right. This is where you don't just respond to life anymore. You don't just respond because you want to respond. You didn't just attend this webinar because you wanted to attend the webinar. You attended the webinar because you want to learn from Coach Faith. You believe that this is what you need for the season. All right. The way I'm talking to you now is the right wiring you need for the season. So that's why you are here. You are not here because you want to be here. You are here because you need this transformation, and it is what you need for the season. You want to accelerate your growth. You want to stop running in circles. You want to be able to move from here to there. Someone wrote a book titled, What Brought You Here? What got you here won't get you there, right? What got you here won't get you there. Or for true, if you have been accumulating books, attending random classes, and it has never taken you to where you want to go, then if you want to go to the next level, you need a different orientation, you need a different knowledge, you need an immersion. You need to be immersed in a learning environment that will sort of project you from where you are to the next level. Okay? So you stop living reactively and start living prophetically. That is where you begin to live. When we talk about living prophetically, we're talking about living based on divine foresight, based on your vision, based on the dealings of God over your life per season. All right? That is what it is. So you're not just living based on the fact that this is what is happening right now. You're not reading books because others are reading it. You're doing it because it is prophetic for you. It is in alignment to your divine assignment, to your divine season and ordination. All right? That is what it is. Whenever they talk about branding, whenever they talk about branding, there's a major part of branding that we emphasize, and that is what we call brand positioning. Brand positioning is not by virtue of the fact that you look beautiful, your aesthetics are great, your logo is this way and that way. No, that's not what determines your positioning as a brand. If you are listening to me right now, you're building a brand. What determines your positioning as a brand is your knowledge, right? The level of knowledge you've been able to accumulate in that area of life. That's what determines your positioning. It is your growth that determines your positioning. So I hear and I see a lot of times that people are powerful and they love the KLT factor. They know, like, and trust, but they want to be seen, known, and liked, especially in the times that we're in. But they are not growing in congruence with the prophetic blueprint of their lives. So as a result, they are not ascending. All right. Even when you think you're being positioned by virtue of the physical elements that you've been able to put together, but in your heart, in your spirit, you already know that you're not well positioned. You know you are not there yet. You know you have not gotten to where you ought to be. So prophetically, it means that you are not growing in accordance to what is in alignment to the vision that you have seen, what is in alignment to who God has made you to be. That's what grants you boldness. That's what gives you the confidence, the charisma to be able to do the work. Okay? You're not just being charismatic because you can speak well, you can love well, you can do any kind of stuff well. No. It is because it is in alignment. Remember the story of Esther in the Bible. You see, Esther was positioned in a certain season to be able to stand firm, okay, to do the needful. Prior to that time, she had already received trainings that would position her before the king, right? So if she wasn't fit for that, she wouldn't have been able to stand before the king, right? So your position is determined by your growth, your preparation. So now the Growth Accelerator webinar is a preparatory phase for you, right? In this season, because every season is a preparation for the next season. And if you're not able to steward your current season, you can't step into the next season. If you're not able to steward the environment you are in right now, you're not able to curate something that works for you, then you cannot step into the next season. If you understand what I'm saying, type season in the room. type season in the room. So we constantly, the word of God says that there are times and seasons for everything. So in every season, there is a person you need to grow to become. Not because you are living, you are totally saying no to who you are. No, identity is really about knowing who you are right now and knowing who you need to become to be positioned for your next level of growth, to be positioned for your next level of assignment and ordination. That's what it is. All right. And finally, what does it mean? We'll talk about acceleration. We're simply saying you finally become the person your future assignment requires. That's growth acceleration. In fact, God has been dealing with me in this arena for the past months personally. And I'm like, this is really what it is for me to share with my community in this season. Beyond just the fact that we have read a lot of books, if you have not read books since I started talking about books in this community, maybe you must have read up to 50 or 20. I see a lot of testimonials all the time. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books, hundreds of them. I've read a lot of them, right? But the truth is, reading those books, they are great. We currently run a project called Project One Book to Impact, where we give out books for free. I've actually opened it up in my community now. That if you live in the city of Port Harcourt, reach out to me. There's a book for you. All right, just for 5% between now and next weekend. All right, I've given 4 persons have applied. There's a slot left. Maybe if you're that person, you can also reach out to us. So, for you to become the person that your future self requires, you know that place you are praying to ascend to, that ladder of growth. Oh God, bless me. Oh God, do this for me. Oh, I want to become this person. That person you want to become requires a different you, requires the grown up you. You know, there are certain things you will never give to your child, no matter how old they are. If you own a Benz or a Mercedes or what have you, and your child is 5 years old, you bought it in their name or a name, you will never give it to that child because the child is not matured enough. If you own an empire and your child is now 20 years or is now 5 years, is now 10 years old, you can never hand over the empire to that child. That's the way God works. If you cannot steward your seasons very well, you cannot move on to the next season. All right. I was sharing yesterday in my inner circle, in our reading for education membership circle, that you see, when it comes to the steward, I spoke about the anatomy of vision yesterday. When it comes to the anatomy of vision, I was trying to emphasize to them that if you want to move to the next level, there's a certain perspective you come into because one of the anatomy of vision is perspective. There's a certain perspective, there's a certain angle of view that you come into. All right. There's a certain way you see. There's a it's something I wanted to say, but I don't want to go that route. Okay, there's a way you see, there's a way you position for you to be able to see, for you to be able to come into that alignment. It is only at that level, it is only when you come into that alignment, friends, that what is needed for you to steward that environment, to move to the next environment, can be given to you. So now, let's talk about some of the reasons you're stuck. Some of the reasons you're stuck. I call it the stuck cycle. Okay. The reason is almost as though you are not there. I've been there. I don't know about if you've been there. Tell me when I describe it. You tell me you've been there. I've been in a situation where I've always told myself, Lord, I want to be able to serve my work. I want to make impact. I want to become the best version of myself. I want to become that woman that you have destined. I know I've seen it. I can feel it. I can sense it. Beyond just feeling, I need structure. All right, because growth goes beyond feelings. The reason you're not growing is because you're always feeling it. But growth is not about feelings. It's not about your emotions. It's not about how you think or how you feel a certain way. No, it's about structure, my friend. So if you've ever been there, like you've prayed it in your secret room and you're like, what do I even need in this season? All right, do I need to read more books? Do I need to get a coach? Do I need to do this? We call that the stock circle. Now, here is what normally happens when you are in the stock circle. When you get to that level, you now begin to look out for inspiration, right? You begin to look out for inspiration. Where do I get inspiration? Where do I get the next information that will inspire me, aspire to perspire? And then as the teacher is teaching, you're like, deep, come on now. That's so deep. Talk to me. I used to be the co-preacher in my church of those days. My pastor will be preaching, I'll be jumping up. Yes, sir. That's deep, sir. Talk to me, sir. How many of you have been there? Talk to me, sir. Yes, I hear you, sir. Now, by the time you are saying all of those things, it is inspiration, right? It is you're being motivated, you're being set on fire, right? But then here's something else that happens. You want to do everything at once. You want to achieve results based on what you have interacted with right now. You want to achieve results. You want to grow. You want to get better. That's what happens. You want to get better. Oh, you have received so much inspiration. The truth is, inspiration gets nobody nowhere. When you gain inspiration and you really don't implement on it, nothing happens. And that's why God is so particular about the subject of faith. He says, without faith, Hebrews chapter 11, it is impossible to please God. Somebody should put Hebrews chapter 11 in the room. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. So you can get to that height where you have so much inspiration, but you're not taking steps. You're not executing. There is no faith in you, right? You're not doing the work. So you see that when inspiration strikes, the next thing is that you want to try and do everything. After a while, you see that you're now becoming overwhelmed. Overwhelm sets in because now you have so much to talk, to interact with, and that's one of the problem of the now, because the superfluous of information leads to the there's a way I want to place it. All right, when there's so much information, then the attention span is low, right? The attention span is low. I'm trying to put this on the screen. Can I do that? Okay, the attention span is low. All right, the attention span is low. It leads to poverty of execution because there's so much now that you have interacted with, and you really do not have a structure. So, inspiration strikes. You try to do everything at once, and then there's overwhelm. And because there is overwhelm now, you don't know where to start from. There's not you now begin to have delays. You now begin to procrastinate. You now begin to tell yourself, "I will do it tomorrow. I will do it when I'm ready. I will do it when I have the time." Okay, I will step up when it is time, when I'm ready. Do you see what I'm saying to you now? I will do it when I'm ready. I will do it when I have the energy to do it. So you will now begin to experience that delay, that procrastination, that limiting thinking. Okay, sometimes it's even as a result of lack of self-trust. Self-trust is another word for self-efficacy. All right, when you really do not believe in your capacity to execute and complete that task and even get the result that is required, right? By the time that happens, before you know it, you start having guilt. You start feeling guilty. Oh, what is even wrong with me? Why am I not doing the needful in my life? Okay, what is even wrong with me? Why am I not doing the needful in my life? Why am I not taking care of this thing that I ought to take care of? I told myself I was not going to sleep too much. All right. I told myself I was going to sleep less. But why am I sleeping too much? How many of you have been there? All right. If you have been there, type sleeping too much. It is time for honest feedback, right? So why am I sleeping too much? I said I was going to sleep for 6 hours. Now I'm slept for 8 hours and I'm still rolling on the bed. So you now begin to have that guilt. Before you know it, you find another motivational video, another motivational sermon, another motivational course. Who has been there? If you've been there, type I've been there. You find another motivational course, right? And as you get another motivational course, the loop repeats itself again. It goes back again. Edward, how are you? Welcome to class. Let me clap for Edward. Yay! Yes, Hebrews chapter 11. Thank you. So at the end of the day, you find another motivational video, sermon, course that you want to go through again, and then you repeat yourself in that same loop. You repeat yourself in that same loop. Let me relate it to the loop of La Cram La Pour. As a student, possibly you've been in class and you've interacted with a lot as a student, and when it is time for exam, what do we normally do? We commit those things to memory. We call them cram them, right? And then we get to the exam or we cogitate everything like a ruminant animal. we pour down everything that we have read, and then we answer the question. Sometimes as you are leaving the hall, you cannot even remember certain things, right? Then the next exam, and then you graduate. They now ask you to define a certain thing. You cannot remember anymore because it was just all about the loop. We call that rote repetition in learning. We call it rote repetition, rote learning methodology. You repeat yourself in circle, right? Favor says I'll be there, right? So you repeat yourself in circle. So at the end of the day, you discover that it's not really about the inspiration and everything. It's about really moving past this circle. This was what happened to the children of Israel. Like you're just running around in circle. You're running around this circle. You never make any foreseeable progress in your growth journey. And then one thing that guilt does, let me tell you one thing that guilt does. Guilt is an enabler. Many people do not know that. If you commit a sin and you are guilty, you start feeling guilty. It will repeat itself again. Because guilt is an enabler, and the mind of a man does not know how to distinguish between positive and negative. So when you are feeling guilty, what you are simply saying is you are affirming yourself to repeat yourself in circle. You are affirming yourself to repeat it again and again. To do that in 1,000 times. That is what it means. That's what guilt does to you. That's why when you do something, you feel guilty, you repeat it again. You repeat it again. You'll be asking yourself, I'm not going to do it next time. I'm not going to do it again. I just need one more accountability partner and I'm going to be sorted. What you actually do need is something deeper. And that's what I want to talk to you about. And that's the shift you need. That's what the growth accelerator is about. That is what the growth accelerator is about. That is what the growth accelerator is about. So let's talk about this growth accelerator. The structure for me is just about clarity, system, and execution. That's the shift you need. Clarity, system, and execution. Okay? Clarity, system, and execution is the shift you need. Somebody should type that in the room. Okay? You first of all need clarity, you need a system, and then you need execution. So now, in these three things I have just told you now, I currently have over 30 courses I have created, put together. Some haven't been recorded. I've put together that I'm going to be teaching in this very space. Because what you do need, I was talking to Edward not quite long when we had our coaching session, that what you do need is an immersion. In this day and age where distraction is at our beck and call. In fact, statistics has proven that in this day and age, Abiodun says, oh my God, yeah, in this day and age, statistics has proven that this is the most distracted generation. I don't know about how the generation Alphas are going to behave. Okay, this is the most distracted generation that has ever existed in the history of humanity. So it simply means that the more distracted the generation, the more of an immersive experience we need to begin to have to steward our journey, to steward our authenticity and our identity, so we don't lose it, right? So we don't lose it. At multiple layers, we have a physical identity, a social identity, a spiritual identity, a mental identity. At multiple layers, we must be ready to steward it. We must be ready to guard it, okay? In a way that we are able to stay put and connected, all right? You don't need to work in isolation. Like I said, growth does not happen in isolation. Like I read this book, I go through that course, I get excited about this. No, that's not how growth happens. It happens when you are able to immerse yourself in a system. Okay? Under clarity, there we talk about identity and becoming, a lot around identity and becoming. We talk about your self perception, how to confront the inner narratives that you tell yourself. Then we talk about your personality code. We talk about the concept of emotional intelligence. We talk about your strengths, your gaps, your blind spot. It's on clarity. We also talk about your growth gap analysis, your strengths mapping. Many of you do not understand your core strengths. You don't know your strengths. the strength that you thrive best at, that is also directly in alignment with your vision and your purpose that you can really thrive at, right? That you can really thrive at, that can help you. Whenever I walk my client through this strength mapping of a thing, there's such a thing as truly zoning in to understand what we call core strengths. Just like you know what your core values are. Maybe many of you don't even know. Your core values. We also talk about core strengths. The strengths that you truly need to begin to leverage on. Okay? There are several factors that should determine that leveraging. The strength you truly need to begin to leverage on in this day and age that will determine how you take yourself to the next level. There are three different compartments of strengths. I call it the TEP model. We have talent, we have energy, and then we have performance. Those are the three elements that determines whether something is your strength or not. Your talent, what you call your talent, your gifts, your abilities, and then we have what we call your your talent. That's for the T, right? The E there, what did I call the E again? The P is performance, the E is energy. Yes. So you have to have gifts, there has to be energy, and there has to be ability to execute. Those are the three factors that makes up for your strength. And that's why somebody will say, these are my strengths. I'm very good at this. Is it profiting? All right. Are you able to use it to impact your life first or even the life of the next person? Right? You may have energy, but are you able to execute? Do you have a roadmap for execution? So we talk about strength mapping. We talk about your triggers and your patterns. We talk about your energy signature. We go deep into talk about your energy signature. We also talk about your inner ecosystem, right? We talk about the voice within. We talk about your awareness, personal mastery pillars. There's a lot. These are just but a few, right? We talk about your value system, letting go, shedding your false self. We talk about your internal alignment. A lot of us live in a world today where we are so attached to external validations. We do not know how to really zone into who we are, to do the things that connect to our destiny and our purpose. All right. There's also a course where I spoke about your permission to evolve. You need permission to evolve. All right. And that permission is from you, it comes from you and your season. All right. We also talk about your personal boundaries, your identity revolutions. Okay. And a whole lot. And a whole lot. Whenever we talk about authenticity, we say show up in your most authentic way. For those of us in the branding space, authenticity is not a curated version of you because branding is all about curation. Authenticity is not the curated version of you. When you say show up, be authentic, we use the word a lot casually. But what we do say is be performative, all right? Perform for the algorithm, perform for the system, perform for people to give you accolades and appreciate you. But when you look deep down, is it really connected to the prophetic blueprint that's been laid out for the season that you are in? So you see the reason people are not happy with themselves. Even when they achieve results in certain areas, they still go back within and they are not fulfilled, they are not happy. All right. So these are some of the major things you learn in the place of clarity. We talk about authenticity and influence, how you can begin to use alignment to deepen your leadership impact. How many of you are already making impact? You're already making impact, type already. If you want to make impact, type impact, right? Type already. If you want to make impact, type impact. So in the place of the S, which is a system, is where we now begin to talk about your how to learn, right? Because you need a system that can take you from here to there. We talk about your learning ecosystem, talk about your reading code. Your reading code has to do with your habit architecture, how you are able to build some kind of framework that allows you to be able to do the needful. Olafuke says, I want to make impact. Beautiful. All right. If you're already making impact, type already making impact. So we talk about your learning ecosystem. These are all the systemic structure that has to be put in place to ensure that you get to accelerate. So when we talk about clarity, gain clarity. We use it like a buzzword, especially in the online space. You have to gain clarity. You need clarity. I also talk about it, but I'm not going to come online and be explaining all of these trainings to you know. That's why we're curating an ecosystem. We're going somewhere. If you'd like to join me on this journey, you're welcome. Yes, this journey is going to take us for some time. It's going to take you some time. All right. It's not a get it quick fix, whatever. It's a journey, all right, of becoming. It's a journey of becoming. Okay, Edward says impact. Aaron says impact. Beautiful, right? So we talk about your learning ecosystems. We talk about your pathways of growth. There is a pathway that is specific to Aaron, that is not specific to Edward. There is a pathway that is specific to simplified diction, that is not specific to Abiodun Ifeoluwa. All right, your pathway has to be specific to your journey. Okay, it has to be specific to the journey. Yes, you need the permission to evolve, and you have to learn how that works, because many of us are our own problem. Okay, I've seen it again and again. You need the permission to evolve, and that permission is coming from you. Many of us are our own problem. We are our own problem. Like, we sabotage ourselves. We don't get past that circle. We keep running a circle. So you need that training to be able to get past it. Okay? So the learning ecosystem, the pathways of growth, then we also talk about the personal mastery blueprint. These are the things we talk about in the systemic structure that ensures that your growth is incongruent with your journey, is incongruent with your season. Then we also talk about anchoring your flow state. I talk about flow state a lot. Flow state. All right. If you want to know more about flow, I usually will talk about the founding father of flow, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Your flow is the zone you get into, and you just get into this zone, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I even get here? Right? And time is passing by. Time management, distraction is no longer your problem. But you need the education to be able to understand how to navigate your flow state. All right. So these are the things we talk about in the place of system. We talk about um, a lot around your vision, um, your ability to express vision expression. Those of you that were in the first cohort of capacity building challenge, I spoke about vision expression. You can remember vividly. I spoke about vision expression. We talk about how to structure it and a whole lot in that systemic framework. Okay, there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about. And then we also begin to talk about how to, in fact, let me also say this to you, that in all of these different compartments, there are tools, there are strategies that you have to begin to utilize to ensure that you also implement. So you're not doing them in isolation. There are worksheets, there are a lot of things, templates that you need to begin to do, to work on or work with. All right. I was speaking with Bali, Edward, one of my students from South Africa is here. I was speaking to him this evening that he has to start printing some of those worksheets, template tools to help you implement, so that these things can be more tangible to you. So if you have clarity, just imagine you're going through a class of nothing less than 5 to 10, 20 different compartments just to ensure you get clarity. Now, clarity is really about the subject of studying you. It is you, first of all. You get to know you. That's what clarity is about. Okay? That's what clarity is about. The middle ground, which is um your system now, is where you now begin to build your environment. You now begin to build something that has to do with how well you are able to position your perspective, your 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 system, your environment, the things that connect to you, right? So that system allows you to be able to work in congruent with your personality. That's what we call the reading flow. The reading flow has to do with how you walk, how you flow, how you organize, how you connect to yourself, right? How you run with the vision in your heart. That's the reading flow. There's a course on that as well, on that clarity. That's the reading flow. So when you now get into that state of flow, I call it synchronicity. That state where it's almost as though nothing is happening. Time is not passing, but you are just growing, you're just ascending, right? You now be able to talk about your system. In the place of your system, the first thing I ever would emphasize is the fact that you must understand that your first anchor is your vision, right? Your vision is the meta picture of a preferred future you've seen. And in every season, There's a vision God wants you to steward faithfully. And that vision is a tool for your acceleration. It's a tool for your acceleration. Any man or woman that does not have a vision cannot grow. Type it in the room. That's the truth. You would only keep going through the stock circle. Remember, I spoke about the stock loop, the stock circle. STUCK. You keep going through the stock circle. You're activated. There's so much you have learned. Just like you've come to this class, right? There's so much you've learned, and you're like, yeah, 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 let's go do the work. And then eventually you hit with a roadblock. You're not able to do the work. You repeat the circle again. When you have a vision, there's a vision that becomes the propelling tool, because vision is one of the major instruments given to us by God for us to be able to evolve at the level of our humanness, at the level of our spiritual ordination. If you do not understand your vision for the season, you cannot steward your growth, because the next season requires an expanded view of that vision. And that expanded view of that vision is not going to work so well if the you of now is not growing to meet up with it. Do you see that? The emancipation of your mind determines how well your vision can also be expanded. That's why two people can be in the same field, in the same state, in the same environment. I'm a teacher, you're a teacher, but teachings are different. Someone even said it to me recently. We had a phone call, someone we served together, and we're talking. She was like, "Oh my God, the country and everything." And then she was like, what in fact, I was like, "Okay, what are you doing?" And she said, "I'm a teacher." I said, "Oh wow, I'm also a teacher." And then the next thing I heard was, "You are not like my own, your teaching is different from my own teaching." I never, in fact, when she said, I was laughing because I understood what she was saying. She said, "No, no, no. Our teachings are different. Your own teachings are the higher level." Do you see? So I was also a school teacher at some point. All right, even though I didn't teach on the last large scale, I've taught in my children's platform. I've taught in a school, maybe doing my NYC. Right, I taught. Right, I've always taught in church. Right, for many years now, being a teacher in church. So you see that your ability to ascend that ladder will be determined by the growth that you have ascertained. So when you cast a vision, a blueprint for the season, it becomes your anchor. It anchors you and grooms you, help you to evolve. Because even when you are discouraged, you will not throw it away because you have seen something. You cannot unsee what you have seen. That's why the Bible says that a place where there is no vision, what happens? That people perish. Some translation says people throw off restraint. A place where there's no vision, people throw off restraint. So that's why you can have all the clarity. If there is no system that is anchored on that, it cannot flow. So a place where there is no vision, my people throw off restraint. Another translation says people become indisciplined. Okay? Not reading flow. Somebody says reading. Please, somebody should type rhythm. Rhythm. ROHYTHM. Rhythm. Rhythm. More like an orchestral rhythm. Flow. That's what it means. I didn't say reading. People are quick to say reading because I'm a reading coach. Okay. So it is that anchor that sustains you. That even in the midst of discouragement, in the midst of disappointment, in the midst of setback, thank you, favor. In the midst of setback, in the midst of what should I begin to do? How do I move forward? How do I not move forward? You keep showing up. Many of you ask me a lot, Coach, do you sometimes feel discouraged? Let's laugh. My goodness. Ah, oh my God. Do I sometimes feel discouraged? Of course. I'm a human being. I'm not high 100% of the time. I sometimes feel discouraged. But my anchor is that I got no option. This is my life. This is who God has called me to be. Just imagine I've designed this flyer, fixed this class, and they now show up today, and then they say Coach Faith is not available. Coach Faith is not ready for the class. She's not feeling motivated. You're gonna be like, is there something wrong with that lady? Even though that is your norm, like you can be demotivated and not talk to anybody, but you're gonna be like, is there something wrong with her? I thought she said she's a coach. Who sent that message? You are not the one that sent me message. It is God that sent me message. So I must commit. So when I see that vision, I've envisioned it, I've seen it, I cannot unsee it. I cannot unsee it because it is a preferred future I want to participate in. Hosting this webinar, I have seen a preferred future that I am taking you to. I have seen a preferred future that God is using me to lead this environment, to lead this generation to. And because of that, I'm stewarding it. I'm nurturing it. And if I remain faithful, God will open my eyes to another dimension of this same vision. All right? God will open my eyes to that. When we're talking about reading, there were several outlets. We did Transcend with books. We did Smart Readers Academy. We did several outlets to steward and to groom people in their different seasons based on what was being directed to my heart part time. Do you get it? So it is of necessity that you begin to look at it from that end that if I do not have an anchor, there is no way I can even scale. There is no way I can even grow. I need that anchor to be able to scale and grow. That's the shift. So as we come to the close of this class in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I would love you to ask your questions. You're going to drop them in the comment. I will answer them. But then the last on the list is what we call execution. This is where a lot of people allow analysis paralysis to stop them. Now, that analysis paralysis is not working in isolation. It is not working in isolation. It is as a result majorly of the fact that you did not gain clarity. You do not have a system. You do not have a system. So execution becomes um, something that you cannot keep up with. So you cannot just wake up and say, because I've read books, I'll collect ideas and go and implement. It's not easy that way. You can only try. I'm telling you. I'm talking from experience. You can only try. You get to a level, it is no longer flowing. That's why you start. After a while, if you've been there, tell me I've been there. Like you start. After like 3 months, 4 months, you stop. You come back again. Okay, maybe you come into a portrait community, you're like, and she's talking about reading, talking about books. You're like, okay, I'm excited again. I've been gingered. Let me go and get one book. And then you read again. Halfway down the line, you're back to square zero. You're back to square one. You get what I'm saying? So execution cannot flow if there is no proper clarity, if there is no structure, you don't have a system, then execution cannot work. Okay? You know how we talk about execution, and we would always say execution is what I would always say execution is what gives credence to knowledge. And then for you to be able to execute properly, you have to be able to have what I call the growth for execution framework. Yes, the growth for execution framework. It's also a growth for the growth for execution framework is where I talk about your different seasons, understanding your zone, understanding where you are in part time, and then when you finally understand where you are in part time, looking at the fact that you have actually been able to sort out clarity, sort out systems, then it becomes easier for you to know what you need. All right, what you need to close the gaps that are in your life, what you need to let go of the blind spot, what you need to ensure that you are able to really do the work as it is required for your next level of result. That is it, friends. So growth acceleration is necessary for your what? For your vision to move forward. It is necessary for you to become the best version of yourself. So here is your activation moment. And I'd like you to write down these 3 questions. Okay? Write down these 3 questions. Edward says I've been there. All right? Write down these 3 questions. Okay? You know, when I was talking about the stock cycle, I'd like you to write down number one idea or assignment you have delayed doing for a long time. The number one thing you have been wanting to do and you have delayed it again and again. You have procrastination you have procrastinated till procrastination is now like your brother or your sister. All right? Write it down. Write it down so well. Then also write down the excuses that you've had to justify this delay. What do you think has been some of those excuses to justify the delay? Write it down. Okay? Write down that excuse. and then write down one clear action step you will take in the next 72 hours. Write it down. Write down one idea or assignment that you have delayed. Like this is the thing you'll be wanting to do to ensure that you move your life to the next level. Write it down. Write down what the things that have been your excuses, and then the clear actionable step you love to take on that. Now, let me recommend a clear actionable step if you would allow me. Should I go ahead? Before I recommend, let me take water. Okay. I'm still here. Okay, so yes, write them down. What is it that has actually kept you from doing the needful, from stepping into your next level? Remember, we've said several things around the fact that growth acceleration is moving past this place to that place. I've said several things around the subject of growth acceleration and what it really means. Stepping into your season, moving with discipline, understanding that discipline is actually not that you're in prison at this level. Understanding the different dimensions that you need to walk through to ensure that you're able to move past the place of inertia. So we've discussed several things. But here's something I want to give to you as a tool, as a framework that can help you zone in and truly be able to structure this life, truly be able to gain the clarity that you need, be able to structure properly, and be able to execute at the speed of light. It is called the Capacity Building Challenge. We had the first cohort, and the first cohort was absolutely free, and it was for 5 days, right? That was like a beta tester sort of cohort. But right now, we're having the second cohort. The second cohort is going to be for 7 days. Okay, somebody should type 7 days. It is going to be for 7 days for capacity building challenge. And these 7 days is going to be back to back. We're going to be discussing a lot around your identity in terms of really understanding where you are and where you need to be, developing the awareness that is needed for you to even step further and begin to build, curate a system, and begin to curate a system that can help you execute, that can help you do the work, that can help you understand your season and truly be able to zone in to become that intentional person that God wants you to be. All right. So in that class, you're going to learn a lot. We're starting it on the 2nd of June. All right. On the 2nd of June, that's when we're starting off the capacity building challenge. It's for a token. You get the links to go register for it. We have $10 for the group, the regular. Then we have VIP for those that want to have extra access to me on a VIP level for $25 for 7 good days. Nigerians, that's about 15,000 naira and 37,500 naira, respectively. Now, in the 7 days, this is what we're going to be doing. We meet every single day on a live class, and we're going to be discussing all the different things I've been sharing, but most especially, we're going to be zoning into teach you more about how to understand you on a deeper level because it starts from you. So you're going to be able to unravel your identity on a deeper level, know who you are, where you are right now, and where you are headed. It is going to be a prophetic community where we just zone in. It's going to be reflective, it's going to be educational on multiple layers. There will be worksheet, there will be templates. Those that attended the cohort one, you should better register now because what you are going to meet in cohort two is nothing compared to that. If you were in cohort one and you learned a lot, just that I learned a lot. You should actually be in the cohort two of this challenge. For 7 good days, there'll be accountability, there will be all that you can think about, and we'll go live every single day for at least 1 hour. Okay, and then you finally also have access to go implement. Those that will join the VIP access, you get to also meet me extra for more coaching even after the group class, right? So meaning that when you are done with implementation, doing all the assignment, you get to also meet me for more. We only have 5 slots for VIPs. If you want to be part of those that will join the VIPs for 7 days, go ahead and register. Okay. So Favor can as well share the link. She will also share the link to the groups. Wherever you join this from, his through your emails, you'll get the link to go register for the CBC. Somebody should type CBC. So I want to listen to you. I want to hear you talk. I want to hear you ask questions because I know you are ready to stop running in circles. You are ready to really have a proper structure. You are ready to choose clarity, choose the right system that works, and truly be able to execute in line with your vision, right? I know you are ready. You don't just want to keep watching random videos on YouTube or on Facebook. You don't just want to keep doing that. You need something that can finally be able to take you from here to there. Just imagine how your life would look like between now and the next 6 months, the next 3 months. If you finally can zone in, if you finally can now begin to do the work of breaking through, like I promised you on the flyer that you're going to learn more about breaking forth. And I've said a lot around that. We've spoken about the structure, and then we've also talking about some purpose driven steps that you can begin to take. All right. I hope you have learned a lot. I hope you have learned a lot. I want to leave you with this line that clarity comes in motion. All right. Confidence is actually built in obedience, and capacity expands in the challenge. All right. Nobody ever expands without a challenge. That's the essence of the capacity building challenge. Nobody ever grows without a challenge. Nobody ever ascends the ladder of transformation without a challenge. I've experienced challenge over the years. I once envisaged of becoming this great woman and even doing better. This is just like the tip of an iceberg. I'm just getting started, but I never knew that it was going to cost me sleepless nights. I was telling somebody recently that I cannot remember the last time I slept. I slept over 4 a.m. Right? Some people say they see me 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yeah, that's been my life for the past 5 years, consistently, right? Because there is an urgency for the assignment. There is an urgency. The moment you discovered who you are, the moment you understand where you are and where you are going, you become indispensable, you become unstoppable. The energy for execution will come alive. And you just be doing things. People will be thinking that you're doing too much, not knowing that you are actually in your zone of genius, right? Remember the TEP framework: talent, energy, and performance. So the moment you come into your zone of genius, all right, the moment you understand who you are in this season and who you are becoming, is there anything that's going to stop you again? Nothing. Nothing will stop you again because now you know. And because you know you are walking in that light, you are walking in that awareness now. But when you don't know, you keep running in circles, isn't it? You keep running in circles. So clarity comes in motion. When you take actionable step today, you will go ahead and register for the CBC, the Capacity Building Challenge, and you participate all through the 7 days. Then you now begin to build confidence. You begin to build confidence. It's a challenge. It's not a place to come and sit down. You're going to do the work. You now begin to build the confidence that is necessary for you to expand the fibers of your being, for you to grow, for you to ascend the ladder of transformation. That's how it works. You now begin to experience that shift that is needed for your next level. So I hope with this few points of mine, let me do my DJ work. I hope with this few point of mine, you have been convinced, all right, that it is necessary for you to have an understanding about what it is to zone into your true identity. The identity requires a certain understanding around you so that you can really be able to do the needful as it has to do with your prophetic blueprint, as it has to do with your season, as it has to do with where God is taking you. If you still want to keep playing to say, oh, Coach Faith, I'm not ready, cool. It means that there's no urgency for your assignment yet. Really, there's no urgency for it. And even if you die tomorrow, no problem. You are okay to just be casual. You're okay to just be you, like the way you are right now. The fragmented you is not what your future need. The fragmented you is not what your family need. Is not what your children need. Is not what the nation need. What the nation need is the holistic you. Come on now, let's clap. Yeah. It is the holistic you that your future need. If you're fragmented, you are going to be scattered. You are not going to be happy. You are not going to have peace of mind. You are not going to be fulfilled. All right. But when you are whole, you are put together, well put together. All right. You're not looking for external validation from nobody because this is a matter of destiny. This is a matter of purpose. This is a matter of where God is leading me. This is a matter of my nest. And I'm willing to step in. I'm willing to steward it. I'm willing to become that person. That is it. What brought me here, Coach Faith, is not what will take me there. And I'm faithfully, friends, faithfully stewarding my season. I'm faithfully doing the work that is required. All right? It's not just about becoming authentic, no. It's about living to the fullest of God's assignment for my life. Okay, I'm going to see you guys in CBC. For those of you that would love to join, you can tell us in the comments. Are you ready to join CBC? If you are in, type CBC. That looks like a church name. Type CBC in the room if you're ready to join us. I see that I think we have 9 persons left. I can see 9. If you're ready to join CBC, just type CBC in the room. Let me know those that I'm expecting to join us. All right. If you're also watching this on a replay, please do well to ensure you register for the program so you don't miss out. Somebody said, can we get the recorded video for the cohort 1, please? Have you paid for it? Are you willing to take the challenge? We're talking about cohort 2 where you take the challenge. You're talking about recording for cohort 1. You're a funny human being. I pray that you're able to understand what we are saying here. Okay? So the cohort 1 is no longer available. The cohort 2 is what we are selling now. Join us. Invite your friends to be a part of it. Thank you so much for your time. You have a lovely night rest. Bye for now. Yeah. I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Thank you for coming. All right. I'll see you in the house. Bye.